All right. So that's step one. Right. Step one is to get a lot of names. Okay. So what's the focus? How many do you want to get?
At least 10.
At least 10. Yeah. So 10 to 20. Right. So cool. So you want to at least get 10. So after you get the names, what you're going to do is go to step two. Step two is where you thought jog. Now, do you guys remember back in training on the first day when I had you guys do that big initial names list? I didn't just say write down a bunch of people. What was I doing?
Giving us ideas.
Giving you guys a lot of ideas, right? So it's going to be the same thing with your customer. So that way, you guys remember how like when I said one group, like it triggered like 3 or 4 other people and just kept building and building. It's the same thing for your customer, right? So you're going to thought jog, right there. So you have address book, cell phone, neighbor, family, coworkers, everything like that, right? So step 2 is, the thought jogging. Step 3, this is important. Step 3 is where you're going to qualify your recommendations, right? It's important to qualify them so that way you know a little bit about them before you call them. So there's a simple acronym that I want you guys to write down, right? You're just going to go straight down the bullet points. The acronym is Kmart. Right? Kmart. So here's what that is, right? K is, do they have kids? Right? Why do you want to know that?
They cook a little bit more.
Yeah, they cook more, right? Families that have kids, they're going to cook more, obviously. If they have kids, they have to cook, plain and simple, because it's going to be way too expensive to eat out for every meal. M is married. And why do we ask for married people?
Dual income.
Dual income, right? And that's our target market. They're going to be most likely to what?
Buy.
Most likely to buy, right? So married, right? So you want to know that. A is area. Why is that good to know?
So you can stay in the same area?
Yeah, so you can be in the same area or just be smart about it.
Plan accordingly.
You can plan, right? So, and also you're going to know who your live and virtual appointments are. So this way you can, knock out 4 appointments in a day in Satellite Beach, and then the next day you go to Vieira, then the next day you're in Melbourne. You're all around the place, but you plan it smartly so that way you're not driving around like crazy. Also, it lets you know who your virtual demos are. They live out of area. R is relation. So how do you know them? Because obviously if it's their sister, you're going to talk to them differently than if it's their mother. So relation, and then T is when's the best time to reach them, right? So who's home during the day? Who are your working moms? Who are your housewives? So those are now, by the way, these are the 5 basic questions you want to ask. You can ask whatever you want on top of this, but at a bare bone minimum, this would be what I would ask, right? Is these 5. Do they have kids? Are they married? Where do they live? What area? How do you know them? And when's the best time to reach them, right? You want to knock out those 5 at a minimum. You can ask more on top of that, but this would be the minimum I would do. Cool? So you want to know a little bit about them. And by the way, they're going to naturally tell you about them as they write down the referrals. So like when you ask, oh, tell me about Betty, right? You're like, oh, her husband, he's a doctor. They have 2 kids. They live in this area. Like, they're going to tell you a lot about them anyways. But this is just the minimum stuff that you want to know about each one. Cool. So any questions on this, on qualifying your recommendations?
No.
All right, cool. Do you guys see that star underneath the 5th bullet point? Right? If you had my job, who would be the first few you would call? Right? It is very, very important. It's very, very crucial that you ask that question after you get all the names. Because if you ask it before, how many are they going to give you?
1.
Yeah, they'll give you like 1 or 2. They won't give you a whole lot if you ask it before, but that's why you want to ask it afterwards. So, and I like to do it as like a proportion. Like if I have a list of 10, I'm going to ask for who the top 3. If I have a list of 20, I'm going to ask for the top 5. So it really depends. By the way, it's not like you're asking, who's got money, but they get it. Your customers understand. It's the same thing yesterday when I had you guys do your list and pick out who your top 10 was. It's the same thing. You're just having your customers pick out their top ones. And, same way that you guys focused on your top 10 for your appointments this weekend, your customers are going to focus you on their top 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the list they give you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So it's important to ask that after you get all the names, right? So cool. Now step number 4, right? This is important. Put a huge star next to it. Highlight, do anything you need to. Make sure that you do not forget to do this part. It's super important. If you want to make the job super easy, super simple, make sure that you do this every single time, right? And this is what separates average reps from great reps. Average reps, they get a lot of names. Right? The average rep in our office gets about 10 recommendations for each appointment. A great rep will get a lot of what's called yes recommendations. Right? A yes recommendation is a guaranteed 100% thumbs up. You have my permission to call me, and I'm going to say yes. Right? They've already agreed to do the appointment before you called them. Right? Could you imagine, by the way, if you're making phone calls this weekend and everyone who you called had already agreed to see you before you ever called them? How much easier would your phone time have been? Tons easier, right? Well, that's what it's like when you have a lot of yes recommendations, right? So, so here's how to do it. So, Miss Jones, it's a lot easier for me when people know I'm calling and they've already agreed to what? See me. So what most of my customers do is make a couple quick calls or send a few quick texts to make sure it's okay that I what? Just let them know the demo's fun and easy. It helps me out and they don't have to. So who can we call or text first? And ideally, who do you want them to call or text first? Which people?
The top 3 that they start.
Exactly, the ones that they start. Yep, the ones that they start. Now, by the way, it's a text message. How long does it take for somebody to send out a text message that you can literally just copy and paste to people? It takes like what? 4 seconds for each one? It's not long, right? So do you think, Miss Jones, assuming she knows how to work a cell phone, do you think she could probably text all of them right then and there on the spot? Absolutely, right? And it makes the job super simple. Now, the objective is to get 2 yeses, right, from every appointment. So if you get 5 recommendations, you want to get at least 2 yeses, right? 10 recommendations, at least 2 yeses. 50 recommendations, at least 2 yeses. You want to at least get 2. Because if you get 2 from every appointment, think about what that does for your business. You're doing 1 appointment, and this 1 appointment turns into 2 more. And if 1 appointment multiplies itself, is your schedule always going to be full? Yeah. Absolutely. And then how easy is this job when your schedule's full? Super easy, right? So it makes the job super simple. You guys, and this is the biggest thing, in my opinion, that I think has help propel a lot of our representatives to have the averages that they do. I think a big reason why, Rashawn has gotten to, 25,000 in sales so quickly. Obviously he's really talented. He's good at what he does, but he gets a lot of yeses, right? Do you guys want to know how many he averages?
How many?
About somewhere between 5 or 6. It's 5 and 6, yes recommendations. So each appointment turns into 5 or 6 more for him. Now, do you guys see why the job's so easy, right? And how our top reps, make it look so easy? It's just because they do more appointments. That's really all it is. Cutco's going to sell itself, So I always want to keep your schedule full. Right? So you want to get at least 2 yeses from every appointment. Now, there's 2 phone approaches you're going to learn when calling your recommendations. You're going to have one for calling yeses and one for calling leads. A lead is where you have the name and phone number, but they might not have gotten texted or might not have responded. And the other one is for yeses. Which one of the 2 approaches do you think is easier?
Yes.
The yeses, right? Do you guys want to hear the yes approach?
Yes.
It's nice, right? It's really easy, So, ring, ring, Miss Jones answers the phone. So, hey, Miss Jones, it's Fareed. How you doing? She's like, oh, yeah, Susie told me you'd call. When do you want to come over? And they ask you for the appointment. How much easier is this job going to be when people are asking you for appointments?
Easy.
Makes it a piece of cake. So, make sure you ask for yeses every single time. Do not forget, right? It's super important, right? Now, most of you guys will probably wait until after your fast start minimum to be calling your referrals. Some of you guys have a list that's so big that, it might take you a month or 2 to get to referrals, right? But either way, some might call them sooner than later, and that's okay. That's not a big deal, right? There's an approach for calling leads and an approach for calling yeses. So spend the extra time, get yeses from your demo. Now, with Grandma, what do you think Grandma's going to do? You think she's going to call or text everybody?
Call.
She's probably going to call, right? Now, with like your best friend's mom that, you probably are already on a text message basis with her, you think she's probably going to call or text? Probably going to text, right? So that's okay. And then you see the sample text down here, right? So, hey, Susie, I just saw a Cutco demo from Matt. He's my nephew. You don't have to buy anything. He gets paid just to show it. It helps him out with school. It's quick and fun. Can you help him out? And when a mom reads that text message, what's she going to say? She's going to say yes. No one with a heart is going to say no to that. So cool. So I have one saved, by the way, in my phone. I'll send that to you guys, here in a little bit when we when we role play this section. Okay. So ask for yeses, send the text message. Now, let's say they send the text to everybody, and you have 4 people respond back with a yes right away. Then you're gold, right? So what you want to do on your recommendation sheet is, let's say that we had Betty and Carl, right? And they were a yes. Okay? I would just simply put a Y over here. So that way I know that Betty and Carl already said yes. So when I call them later on, I know they said yes, and I can just simply be like, hey, it's me. Did you get the text message? All right, great. When can I come over? Right? So it makes it really simple. So you just have some sort of key over here that lets you know who your yeses are and, who didn't respond back right away, right? And once you get into calling referrals, like once you're calling majority referrals, you want to call your yeses right away. Why?
Easy to look up.
It's easier because they just said yes. Yeah, it's fresh. They just said yes. You're going to call them like 3 minutes later, and then they're going to be like, oh, thank you so much, Miss Jones, for agreeing to see me. When can I come over? And it's really simple from there, right? So, and again, this job is, a lot easier. It's a lot simpler once you have, your appointments lined up ahead of you. So the idea is you shouldn't need to make as many calls as you've made the last couple of days, because what you did is you laid your base for this weekend, right? 10, 15 appointments, however many you got. You laid your base for the weekend, and then all of a sudden, you get yeses. Your schedule's going to continue to multiply. Does that make sense? You want to get to the point where you have so many yeses, not even so many leads. You're gonna easily have a bunch of leads because you're gonna get 10 every time. But you want to get to the point where you have so many yeses that you can't keep up with them all. That's a good problem to have, right? So just something to keep in mind there, right? Now, but if you let's say you get somebody, get recommended to somebody who should have been on your list or somebody who was already on your list, like mom and dad's friends, right? Of course you can call those people. They should have been on your list anyways, right? So you only don't want to call them right away if you don't know who they are, like if you don't know them and they don't know you, right? Like we talked about earlier with the 4 gears. So obviously those ones call right away. So who do you think we can call or text message what? First, right? And, because you're rushing from demo to demo, what's going to happen is Miss Jones, she's going to send out the text message, but some of them might not see it till later. So some people will say yes, but you won't know they said yes. Does that make sense? Just because you would have already left because you're going demo to demo and, your schedule's packed. So cool, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to role play. We're going to role play just steps 2, 3, and 4, right? So, just pick it up right where you left off. So you already got the names. You already have everything listed on the sheet, right? And then you're going to go through some thought joggers, just give them some ideas, practice qualifying your recommendations, right? Like if you look through any one of our top representatives' rec binders, they're going to have all sorts of markings all in the margin. That's a good thing, right? You want to know as much about your customer as possible, right? So practice qualifying, just ask these questions, and, practice the yeses. So go through 4 times each, so 8 times total per partner set, okay?
Okay.
All right, awesome. Let's go, guys.